everybody, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Jen. I am on my week 32. I can't believe it's already week 32 of Zepbound. I'm going to be going over my results from week 31 with all of you today. I'm still on the 7.5 milligram. I will also show you my injection for week 32. Today we are sponsored by Brianna Cannon, and they are offering all of my audience 10% off. They have some of the cutest things for Halloween. I'll show you guys some things over here. I've already placed my own order for the pink candy corn, like I need it, right? But I thought it was absolutely adorable, so I had to have that. I had a lot of compliments from all of my Kentucky headbands during one of the UK Legacy Kids Pumpkin Festivals that we went to this last week. So I'll show you guys some pictures of my kiddos getting to meet the Wildcat there as well. I'm going to go over what everybody's probably wanting updates on, which were the Capitol Hill Senate hearings with Novo Nordisk. Of course, Eli Lilly is also being thrown out there as well throughout this entire hearing. However, I do have some high points, some low points, and some things that I felt like really just went really weird during the 2+ hour long hearing. So I'll give you all those updates today during our In the News segment, and let's go ahead and get started. Like I said, today we are sponsored by Brianna Cannon, so I hope that everybody can go and take advantage of that over at this link. You can get there by going to briannacannon.com/living large and Lily as well. They gave me my own kind of landing page. They have cute stuff, even for gifting. They have everything from cute headbands to jewelry to outfits to even kids items as well, and my kids are just chomping at the bit to get some of this, so I might have to grab some things for my kiddos as well. I'm going to go over my week updates first for everyone that is here for just that and doesn't care about anything in the news. I'm going to go over week 31 results first, which I was really surprised by this. If you guys remember last week, I said I had lost weight, but then literally the day of my video, something was going on where I was 4 pounds up. I moved the scale around a couple of times because even my husband went and got on the scale and he said, wait a minute, there is something wrong with the scale because I'm 4 pounds heavier. And my husband never gains weight. He has been the same weight for the past 9 years. Granted, it has shifted different areas, right? Dad bod. But it's been the exact same weight the entire time. So I said, okay, if you're 4 pounds up and I was exactly 4 pounds up, there's got to be something with this. So I have my Renfro scale. You guys know that it tracks everything for me from my BMI to my fat percentage to the actual pounds lost. It tracks my water, my protein, my visceral, my subcutaneous fat, my bone mass, my muscle mass, everything in this. So I want it to be as accurate as possible. I moved it around a couple of times until I started getting the same reading each time. And then when he stepped on it as well, he was at his normal weight as well. So I used my husband as my control, right? So that last week was a fluke. I think it was because I moved the scale from the basement down in the gym up to my bathroom so that I'm reminded to weigh more often, which is what the Weight Watchers Clinic likes for me to do. The Sequence Clinic wants to see me weighing every day. I usually get to it maybe every other day, but they like to trend your weight so that it's not just a weekly thing, because you can have such large fluctuations like that. Your weight can fluctuate on a daily basis. So this last week, I lost an additional 2 pounds. So I am very pleased with that. I'm very happy with that. And it is already time for me to take another Cosentyx injection this Friday, either Friday or Saturday, I believe. I need to look at my calendar. I think I'm going to take it right before we go off going somewhere. I'm hoping that I have the same reaction with the Cosentyx injection as I did this last month, where I wasn't going back and forth for 2 and 3 weeks, because that was absolutely fabulous. So far, I've lost over 5 pounds just in the month of August. No, we're in September. Just in the month of September. Oh my gosh, where's the time going? Okay, just in the month of September so far, I've lost over 5 pounds. I did go back and I looked just out of curiosity from when I started to week 31, what my fat percentage has gone down. I have lost 11.3% of my body fat percentage since February. So I feel like that is something to really celebrate. I would love to hear down in the comments what your all's percentage of fat loss is, if you know based on your scale, or you know based off of going to your doctor or doing a quick calculation for yourself. I am up in muscle again, so yeah, not really. This is like meh, but I try. I try. But I am up in muscle again, which is really great. My water is up, my protein is up, my muscle is up. I gotta work on that visceral fat. Visceral fat I feel like is the hardest to lose. I would like to retain some of my subcutaneous fat just because, you know, that's like a little bit of cushion on the outside. I don't really need all that visceral fat that's on the inside. We went over the difference between visceral and subcutaneous fat before in some of my very first videos. You guys see my little Frenchie? You guys want to see Frankie?
Hey, hello. My name's Frankie. Say hello. Hello.
Okay, sorry. That's my French bulldog. He's a hot mess, and you'll hear him trotting all around and probably see him coming back over here now wanting more love. Yeah, because I'm his mama. Anyways, I'm going to also show you guys my week 32 injection right over here just so that you can see that really quickly. One thing I did note this week that I'm really understanding more about people who are on compounded drugs. You know, with the manufacturer, with Eli Lilly, they are recommending that you only do this once a week, this one injection once a week. And then previously I put up some websites over on my community tab that people are utilizing, Shotsy, as well as another one to kind of track how much of the medicine is in your body after so many days on the different titrations, right? Because a lot of people have noticed that after 3 or 4 days, they start feeling some of the same cravings again, or they're thinking about food again, or their weight is going back up again, or they're feeling like it's not as effective for them anymore. However, they don't want to be bumped up by 2.5. You know, they don't want to go from 2.5 to 5. Maybe they want to go from 2.5 to 3. And I will admit to everyone that I feel like that is a much better course of action. I'm not a medical professional, but if I was a medical professional, I would also want to be doing that with my patients, because smaller increments of titrating up is always a better idea as far as like your body being able to adapt to it, the side effects, being able to really kind of narrow in and figure out what that exact titration for each individual body needs to be. And so I do understand and I can appreciate that aspect of compounded drugs. I wish that we were like Australia in the fact that we could get vials all the way up to the 15 milligram, and then we kind of let the medical professionals decide how much of that 15 milligram a patient should be getting, and then give guidance and also direction on how that patient should be injecting. Or even if the patient can't, go ahead and let the medical professional go ahead and pre-fill the syringes for them and those titrations. So then the patient only has to just grab up the syringe and go. I feel like that's a decent idea moving forward. I know that I'm going to be discussing in just a minute with the GLP-1 in the news, pricing. And I think pricing, once we get into it, I really feel like all the manufacturers are going to want to switch to vials for the cash pay, just because they then are going to be able to make more profit on those vials. I'm not mad at it. I don't hate it. I really don't hate the idea, just because then you can get the FDA regulated drug and you can decide to go from a 2.5 to a 3 instead of a 2.5 to a 5 if you choose to. Now, right now, the FDA has regulated Eli Lilly into only the 2.5 and the 5 milligram dosage in a single dose vial because they don't want patients doing this. But I really feel like instead of the government and the FDA trying to tell everybody, or insurance companies and PBMs trying to tell everybody what they should and should not be taking, I'm a firm believer that medical advice should be coming from someone with a medical degree, right? Like it should be coming to a patient, your doctor saying, hey, the 5, for instance, for me is not working for you, we're going to go to a 6. And so what we're going to do is we're going to draw out 60 milligrams each time from this vial. If you need assistance in doing that, we can give you pre-filled vials here and then send you home with those, or we can send you home with a vial if you are confident in doing it yourself. I really feel like that should be an option with FDA regulated drugs as well via a medical professional, not necessarily an insurance company deciding whether or not I can have the drug with the PBM, or the FDA deciding whether or not I can have it based on whatever they come up with in their mind. I really think that America has kind of gone askew and gone off the rails of our doctors are not who is deciding what treatments we get anymore. It's these PBMs and the insurance companies who are deciding what treatments we can get. And it may or may not be the best treatment for us. It may just be the treatment that they earn the most by us having it, right? And so now I'm going to get into GLP-1s in the news. Hands down, you guys know that this is my favorite segment of the entire thing that I put together for you every single week. I did in fact sit and watch the entire 2-hour and 15-minute hearing, whatever it was, with Novo Nordisk at Capitol Hill. There's a couple of things that really stood out to me, and the first was the fact that they had this up behind one of the senators showing that PBMs are making 74% profit on Novo Nordisk's Wegovy and Ozempic, whereas Novo Nordisk is making 24% of the drug cost. That is huge to me. And one senator pointed it out so pointedly and so directly, and what I call 5th grade level style, so that everybody there can understand it, right? He said, why are we going after the company who is researching, putting millions, if not billions of dollars into research on a yearly basis? They are discovering, they are finding the drugs, they are doing the clinical trials on the drugs and bringing those drugs to us that work, and they work for all these different kinds of diseases. But we're going after them. We're going after the innovators, we're going after the people making it, we're going after the people who are providing it and bringing it to us, instead of going after the people who are profiting the most. They're making 3 times as much. They're not doing any research, they're not doing any innovation, they're not bringing us drugs that can help with any type of disease. They are a purely profit animal, and that's it. And there's been PBM reform on these ballots and on these votes in the past, but then nothing is ever done about it. And there was another chart up behind him that showed the 3 major PBMs, which is CVS, Caremark, Optum Rx, and Express Scripts. And when you guys hear this, I want everyone to understand that all 3 of those entities, all 3 of those PBMs that make up 85% of the United States market for our prescription drugs, 85%. So they're almost dominant. It's like a monopoly between these 3 companies, right? I mean, monopoly's one, but they're controlling it all, okay? They're making all the money. They are owned by the insurance companies. So to try to say that the PBMs are making these decisions without the insurance companies knowing what they're doing or agreeing with what they're doing is basically like saying that your boss gave you an assignment, you did your assignment, but the boss didn't know what you were doing. The boss knows what you're doing. He's the one who told you to go do it, okay? So they have to quit this. One thing that I felt like Lars Jorgensen did wrong, okay? First of all, I will tell you he did a lot right. He was so even, so monotone, so just directly in the same message that it even put my children to sleep within 3 minutes, okay? Which is great, you guys. So if Novo Nordisk ever watches this, you guys need to make like a podcast of just him speaking for parents to put children to sleep too. So One thing that he did wrong, because when he was pointedly asked, why are you charging Americans so much for this drug when you're charging Australia $87, you're charging Germany $92, you're charging Americans $965, whatever it was, right? He said, manufacturers don't set the price. PBMs set the price. In America, you have a business structure with PBMs who work for insurance companies under their umbrella who are setting these prices. Easy enough answer, right? For whatever reason, that went like way over Bernie Sanders' head, or either he is himself funded by PBMs and insurance companies on all of his campaigns, so he's trying to make it look like it's really the manufacturer that's doing this and not PBMs, because he kept saying, I have letters from the top 3 PBMs that say, if you lower your price for this drug, that they will not cut coverage for Americans, they will add coverage for Americans, and they could get more insurance companies that work with them to add you for coverage as well. And he stated, that's great that you have that in hand. We are willing to sit down with them and have that discussion. However, that has never been our relationship with them. They constantly ask for additional rebates. They constantly ask for us to pay them more money just to offer the drug on these different insurance plans. They ask for a larger price so that they can then turn around and charge these corporations, these companies, these hospitals, everybody who's buying insurance plans for their employers more money, showing how much they're having to pay for these drugs. However, he stated, when we first came out with Ozempic, we had a 36% coupon or rebate for these drugs with all of the PBMs and insurance companies. We didn't have anyone giving access to it at that rate. We did not have anyone taking it. So we gave it an additional 40%, making up that 76% that's on the chart. So they have a 76% gain that the PBM themselves are making. Novo Nordisk is making 24%. Okay, that is why the price kept going up and up and up and up. Because if you have to keep offering them more money on their middleman end, from collecting money for giving it to the employees on an insurance plan structure on this side, then also getting the rebate from the company on this side, you're keeping the difference as the middleman. And so one thing that he did wrong, he said when someone asked him, how much is Novo Nordisk actually making per patient on these drugs? And he said, I don't have that number off the top of my head. I do understand it, and I want to explain why I think he said that. If you really think about how all of us are paying something different for our drug, so put down in the comments below, when you go pick up your drug at the pharmacy, how much are you paying for your drug? Are you paying $0? Are you paying $25? Are you paying, that's my dog, by the way. In a second, he rings his doorbell to go outside. Are you paying $500? Are you paying $550? Are you paying $1,200? They're going to make something different on each American based on what plan they have, or if they're paying with a health savings card, they're going to make something different on every American. Realistically, Jorgensen's team should have put together the mean or an average or both, and they should have handed that to him and said, here's on average what we are making off of each American who buys Ozempic or Wegovy. However, that being said, you need to explain, sometimes we get nothing, sometimes we make $100, sometimes we make $200, whatever it happens to be. If he would have had those numbers in front of him and then vice versa said, PBMs are making this much on average, then he would have had a much better argument. He would have been much more transparent, and he would not have had senators coming at him saying, you've made over $50 billion in the past 4 years, or whatever, however long it was that it took them to make that.
Senator Braun and I come from different perspectives, but occasionally we agree that the system is broken. Senator Braun said the industry is screwed up. Is that the right quote? I don't agree that it's screwed up. It's enormously profitable. This is a company that makes huge profits. Top 10 pharmaceutical companies made over $100 billion in profit last year. It's not screwed up. They are making huge amounts of money.
The fact of the matter is, Novo Nordisk is developing drugs in all different aspects, from Alzheimer's to weight loss to diabetes to cancers, for the human race. Whereas PBMs aren't doing jack doo-doo, but taking everybody's money. So why are you coming after someone who is developing things to better us, and they should be getting money to fund additional things? If you have a blockbuster, take the money and fund additional things. Fund the manufacturing of it so that you can meet supply with demand. You should have those profits because you are the innovator of that. You are the owner of the patent. You are the owner of the drug, right? If you guys don't agree with that, I would love to hear your comments down below. Another thing that was really kind of like cringe, it was just really like cringe when this lady did this.
Will Novo Nordisk agree to provide any interested company with the necessary information and drug formulation to make Levemir?
Senator, thank you for the question. Any decision to take a product off the market is a very, very difficult decision. And I have to explain why we had to do that. We last year reduced the price for Levemir. We dropped the price, yet to find that PBMs dropped access to Levemir. So much less patients have access to it.
I understand that, but my question is, now that you're not making it and there are still patients who need it, will you provide necessary information and drug formulation to other pharmaceutical companies that decide they want to make it?
We have given a year's notice, more than the weeks you mentioned.
Sir, my question is a direct one. Please answer it or tell me you're not going to.
We have collaborated and followed up with all those that were brought forward as potential manufacturers, but we have not found anyone interested in manufacturing it. And if there is a company interested in manufacturing it, or the government wants to manufacture it, we'll be happy to collaborate. The reality is that the market is disappearing for Levemir because of how it's contracted. And I don't make a decision like that, an easy decision.
I understand, but and have you worked actively to find a manufacturer to take on Levemir? It sounds like you've had some conversations, but are you continuing the outreach? Because there are some patients who really need this medication.
Yes.
There was a medicine that Novo Nordisk stopped making. They gave a year notice saying, hey, we are no longer going to be able to make this drug. We have cut the price by 65%. All of your PBMs and insurance companies, since we cut the price by 65%, have decided they're not making enough money, and so they're not going to put it on any of their plans for their patients to be able to obtain it anymore. That message was obviously lost in translation amongst the people who are sitting around that are talking like this. There's one lady that I could not stand listening to her speak. I thought to myself, my goodness, we need people in here who are actively involved, who know where they are for the day, who knows what year it is, to be overseeing this, not people who are having to read something that's directly in front of them because they don't even know their name that day. That is how I felt about half of the senators that were in that room. Fight me on it if you want to. I don't care. There needs to be an age limit on how long these people can stay in office. Everything has a time limit on how long they can stay there except this. It is absolutely ridiculous.
And since its introduction. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
But the question remains, how do we give relief to patients at the pharmacy counter? As Senator Cassidy has mentioned, this committee's examined the role of the middlemen, the PBMs, in inflating costs. And more than a year ago, in May of 2023, our committee reported a comprehensive bill that reformed PBM practices. And the whole purpose of that bill was to ensure that consumers got relief at the pharmacy counter. Unfortunately, the Senate Majority Leader and the Chairman have not brought that bill to the Senate floor in more than a year. Could you give us some indication of what the impact on costs to consumers would be on prices if we had enacted that PBM reform bill?
Yeah, thank you, Senator, for that question. If we look at it today, PBMs and their insurance companies, or I think typical insurance companies that own the PBMs and a number of legal entities set up to extract fees from the US system, they are rewarded based on list price. So they get a fee based on list price. So the higher list price, the more fee they get for the same job, which means that in our experience, products that comes with a low list price get less coverage, it's less attractive, and that becomes troublesome for patients because patients who do not have insurance or have high deductible plans are then asked to pay the list price. We pay on average 74% in rebates, discounts and fees, and even more when we are into Medicaid, 340B, etc. So if we did our business based on net price instead of list price, that would mean that our products would be much more affordable for patients. And if we simply paid the PBMs a small fee for the limited risk and contribution they make, I think patients would be significantly better off.
So for every dollar that you sell in medicine, how much of that dollar goes to rebates, fees, and discounts that largely do not get passed on to the patient?
Yeah, for every dollar we make, we give 74 cents to the PBMs, insurance companies.
So 74 cents of every dollar. Yeah. Let me switch to another issue just to make sure that I understood. In your opening statement, you seem to say that your largest shareholder is a nonprofit charitable foundation. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
This lady starts asking another lady, not the one who looked like she didn't know what day it was. Another lady said to him, "We want you to turn over the formulation for that drug so that we, as the federal government, can find a manufacturer to manufacture that for us because we have patients here who need that drug." Did it completely just fly over your head that you were just told if your PBMs would offer it, even at a 65% discounted rate that we offered them, we would continue to make it? However, we're not going to keep giving things for free for someone else in America to profit off of it. That just went completely over her head, which I think is absolutely insane. Why did you not hear, why are you asking questions and not listening to the response to understand them, but you're just waiting for someone to stop talking so that you can continue to say what it is you have conjured up in your mind that needs to happen? First of all, when a company develops a drug that works, they own that drug. Okay, they own the research, they own the patent, they own the formulation to it. They're not going to just hand that over to someone else on a silver platter and say, "Here you go. Why don't you go make it now?" This was the dumbest question out of everyone from the entire hearing. Why are you asking a CEO of a big pharma company to just hand over their research that's from another country, by the way? This is a Denmark company. It's not like the American government can go in and be like, we own you now. No, Novo Nordisk could just as easily just say, you know what, fine. We're just not going to send jack doo-doo to America anymore if this is how you want to act. You cannot force someone to hand over their work to you and just go give it to Joe Schmo to make at another manufacturing company because you've decided it still needs to be made. You need to address the underlying issue, which is PBMs. I don't understand why back in May they said we need to do a PBM reform, we need to break this up, we need to quit this. Drug prices across the board for all drugs is way too high. They already spoke to Merck. They already spoke to multiple other Johnson & Johnson. They spoke to all of our cancer treatment drug places who tried to explain to them back in May. PBMs set this price. I don't understand how many times you have to say something to someone. It's like speaking to my 5-year-old, where you have to repeat yourself over and over and over and try saying it just slightly different in a different way, hoping that they're going to pick up what you're putting down. So this hearing was torturous to go through and watch. I'm just going to tell you all, I put it over in my community tab if you do want to go sit down and watch it all. I really felt like Bernie Sanders was like asleep during half of it or something and started out strong, like, we want to know why you're charging these prices, but then also came back and ended like, I don't agree that you should be keeping all this money. You know, you've made $50 billion. I don't agree that you should get to keep all that.
Senator Bowen said the industry is screwed up. Is that the right quote? I don't agree that it's screwed up. It's enormously profitable. It's a company that makes huge profits. Top 10 pharmaceutical companies made over $100 billion in profit last year. It's not screwed up. They are making huge amounts of money. And
why don't you go ask the PBMs how much money they made? Because if Novo Nordisk is getting 24% or less of every single drug that they're selling within the United States, and PBMs are getting upwards of 75% of every single drug, that's 3 times the amount that you're putting into insurance pockets. They're also getting paid by corporations and corporate entities just for coverage for their employees. They're like not even double dipping. They're dipping from all the F around. They are taking from the manufacturer. They are taking from the employer. They are taking from the patients. They are taking from the hospitals. They are taking from the medical professionals. They have their sticky fingers in so many honeypots, and no one is addressing why the F they're the ones profiting from all of this. No one is asking this, and it makes 0 sense. All right, now that y'all got me all worked up and hot and heavy over this, because I'm telling you, I was like yelling at the screen yesterday, trying to not wake my children up. I'm sitting there going, because I was utterly baffled at the lack, like just the sheer lack of understanding from the senators. I feel like going into a hearing like this, you should have done your own research. You should have known what kind of questions you want to ask, and you should have been very pointedly and said, during my time, what I want to ask you is, what are you going to do about it? What are you currently making? How can we move forward? Do you have a course of action? Because that's what we're looking for. At no time was an actual course of action laid out and approved by everybody, other than Novo Nordisk is open to discussions with PBMs on whether or not they're actually going to provide coverage for the drugs if the price is lowered. Personally, hello Novo Nordisk, I'm going to tag you in this video. Lars, I'm going to tag you in this video too. You all need to tell PBMs to kiss your ass. You need to tell them to kiss your ass. You need to set up a Lilly Direct type program direct to patients in the United States. If you have to do that for every single drug that you sell for the United States and just say, hey, you know what? We're going to take the same thing that we were making with our 24 to 30-ish%. We're going to offer it direct to the patient from now on. We're also going to work with patients who can't afford even that ourselves. We're going to tell the government to piss off, and we're going to tell their PBMs in America to piss off as well. That is exactly what you need to do. Eli Lilly has done the correct steps, in my opinion, as far as setting up Lilly Direct so far, offering the cash pay options. However, if looking at it, I think that the price should probably be closer to $300 instead of $399 and $459. I think that if the price were to cut down closer to what the compounding prices are in the United States, we would no longer have compounding price issues. The Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk products, which are FDA regulated, would be boosted up by the American people as well, and everyone could move on. The fact of the matter is, for Novo Nordisk, okay, and Eli Lilly as well, I'll tag you as well, there are people in our government that should have retired a long time ago that have no idea what they're doing, or they are being funded by PBM profits and insurance profits via lobbyists, okay? You need to just cut the entire head off of the animal and say, we're not dealing with you anymore. The end. I personally have seen that Pfizer is already setting up a direct-to-patient program, much like Eli Lilly. I think this is the way that we should be going in the United States from now on, and we basically tell insurance to, okay, thank you, that would be great. A couple of other things in the news. I'm going to move on from this since I'm so worked up now. A couple of other things in the news. I put over in the community tab this week that Eli Lilly is sending out letters to patients that they have somehow gained knowledge that they are compound users. Now, I have no idea how they would get their address. I have no idea how they would get their name, other than during discovery in legal processes, there may have been a file turned over to Eli Lilly's legal team that says, here's how many patients we have been providing in what states. It may have just gone ahead and given the names and full address of all of those patients. I wouldn't be surprised if that's exactly what happened, because I did read somewhere that Eli Lilly is seeking $30,000 per patient from all these compounding companies, that once they have received their cease and desist letter and they continue to provide compounds to those patients, Eli Lilly is suing them for $30,000 per patient. That is the compounding pharmacies, the medical spas, and so on and so forth. I don't really know how far that is going to stretch. I will tell you all that if I had Eli Lilly's pockets, and again, I was the one doing the research, I am the one doing the innovation, I am the one who holds the patent on these drugs within the United States, and I'm already paying a legal team to just sit in their offices, I would be giving them something to do as well. So I know there's gonna be so many comments down below about how I'm like, the big pharma, like, oh yeah, just throw more money at big pharma. But guess what, guys? Big pharma is who brings you the drugs that save your lives, that deal with your diseases, that can help cure cancer, that can address Alzheimer's, not your compounding pharmacy. Okay, so before I get all of the hateful comments down in the comments below, I think everybody should understand my line of thinking and why I think the way that I do. Before I worked for Big Pharma, I worked for one of the largest cancer treatment centers of the entire world, okay, one of the top ones. I watched people die on a daily basis. Emails would go out, multiple emails, patient has expired, okay? I went from that environment to working for Big Pharma, who's doing the research, who's doing the clinical trials, who's doing the innovation, who's doing the manufacturing, who's sending out the drugs to save lives, to help people not have to go through that, where I came from, okay? So that big picture is why I feel the way that I do about being okay with my money from what I have to take going directly to the people who are making the drugs, who are doing research into more drugs. I have zero problem with big pharma. I have huge problems with PBMs and insurance companies. On another note, another big win for Novo Nordisk this week was that the EU finally did give them that check of approval for Wegovy for cardiovascular health. So that's just another country who is saying, yes, Novo Nordisk, please keep coming back with all of your drugs. Whereas in America, we are slapping your wrist and slapping you across the face and telling us that you need to just hand it over to us. And I feel like that is definitely the wrong route to go with all manufacturers in general. We're going to heavily segregate ourselves at some point, and we're not going to get access to a lot of these drugs that are coming out of Europe. While there is and there are drug companies in the United States who are having great innovations, we also have to realize that not everything is going to be discovered and come up within the United States. So for those reasons, I think that we need to be a little more accommodating and understanding as to the problem that we have in the United States is our own created hot mess. And we do need to look at countries where it is working for the patients and the people's benefit and try to figure out how can we do that, okay? Instead of making other people conform to the hot mess that we have here for healthcare. Because I think the entire world knows that the United States healthcare system is the biggest business that we have here. The insurance schemes, the PBM, the insurance schemes around healthcare is the biggest, schemiest business that we have in America. And on that note, I'm going to wrap up today. I would love to hear everybody's comments down below. I would love to hear how everybody else is doing. If you guys have titrated up and you just want to share, if you guys have wins and you would like to share, if you have questions and you want to share to try to get feedback from other people in the comments, please feel free to put all of that down below. Again, I'm Jen at KetosisMom. Today we are sponsored by Brianna Cannon. Make sure that you go and you check that out. They are offering a 10% discount over at briannacannon.com/livinglargeandlily. You can additionally, if you just cannot afford these drugs at this time and you cannot afford to just sit and wait on the people that move at a glacial pace in our government to do something and put something together to where it is affordable for us, or you can't wait for Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly to decide to just offer direct to patient at all titrations at a decent price, then I do also still have the $50 off over at Emerge for compounds. Again, the code for that is KetosisMom50, or you can use this QR code or the link that I put down in the caption below in order to gain access to that. I also still have the blog post up that does look into the state license, the FDA audits, as well as any other additional news on any of the pharmacies that Emerge does use. I personally do urge everybody to still use an FDA regulated drug at all times if you can. I do also understand that the current costs make it basically impossible for the majority of people. Even the compounded costs make it nearly impossible, but make sure that you know the quality of where you're getting it from. Minimum, do your research into what you're getting, okay? You guys can follow me on Instagram at KetosisMom or Living Large and Lily. I'm also over on Like to Know It at Living Large and Lily. If you're doing any kind of shopping during basically the rest of this year is what they're calling the holiday season, please head over to my Like to Know It at Living Large and Lily or my Amazon storefront and consider supporting me as a creator. I greatly appreciate all of you every single week. I love hearing all of your comments. I love hearing everything that you have going on. If anyone has anything that they would like to see, they would like for me to address, they would like for me to talk more on, please make sure that you put that down in the comments. I'm always looking at the comments. Trust me, even if you guys want me to come up with some random high protein recipe, I will do it for you. I will see you guys next week and hopefully have good updates there as well. Bye, everybody.